some of the clients that I'm working with in New Jersey are from other states, California, Michigan, Colorado. And so, and especially in the retail space, they're from a business development standpoint, they're trying to figure out what the lay of the land's going to look like within their retail space. And so I've actually been advising for you to receive your first license, you might want a smaller square foot in your retail facility because we won't have so much diverse products, like especially with this edible situation, at least from what I've seen in Florida. And again, I like to compare New Jersey to Florida just because of the ATC vertical model. A lot of times, as we know, it's a handful of multi-state operators or MSOs that are the ones that have the funding able to actually do this vertical integration model. And so they aren't exactly required to innovate and like create new products because they already have a foothold in the market compared to something like California or Michigan, where California, as we know, they've been doing this for 3 decades. And so they have a ton of unique products, a ton of innovation, and you just don't have as many SKUs in your retail storefront. So if you have this massive retail storefront and only have like 15 to 25 SKUs, you have all this dead space. And so that has been a really big challenge for me personally, advising my clients to help them in their business strategy and what type of facilities they should be going after. I really hope that New Jersey does start to expand, especially the edibles. I mean, the edibles, they asked me that question probably like 2 months ago, and I did not have an answer for them. And then I finally got the answer probably like 3 weeks ago. And I was just like, there's no edibles. I can't believe this.
And on that point, though, I mean, the one thing I will say, like, and don't get me wrong, like the regulator here in New Jersey is great, and the executive director in particular, he's been around the block a lot. You know, big concern is obviously safety, and like as I always say, like never overlook the fact that in a new market, even regulators are doing this for the first time. And don't get me wrong, like
Right.
the majority of these regulators now are part of like CANRA, among other organizations, where they can have that dialogue with other out of state regulators to kind of get to that consensus on safety. Um, but don't what I would say is don't take a prohibition in the rules as gospel. And what do I mean by that? What I mean by that is you can always make the argument, right? Like, and this is about like, and I actually think we talked about this on our last podcast 2 years ago, which is knowing the regulations is just as important as knowing the regulator. And what I mean by that is like what motivates them. So if you're just going to make an argument that we want an expansion or a waiver or whatever it is, know what motivates them from a concern standpoint. Otherwise, your message is going to land. I mean, if you tune into these CRC meetings, you hear people all the time saying, I want edibles, I want edibles, I want edibles. But how do you make the argument that actually, no matter what your concern is, whether it is from a food grade kitchen regulation standpoint, whether it is from a stability testing standpoint, like all of these things, just understand whenever you make that argument, you got to bring all your support to the table and understand the audience that you're pitching that to. So again, this is a moving market. Our adult use regs will change by the end of the summer. Our medical
Oh, yeah.
regulations will change probably in the last quarter of 2022. So it's a time for really good arguments, and that's where folks from out of state can have a leg up because they can at least bring this vantage point of these were the hurdles we experienced when we brought this into a Western market in the first instance, and here's how we got to yes, here's how we got to safety.
Yeah, absolutely. And as we know from other markets, regulations, the first 3 to 4 years, like they change so drastically. I mean, California, Michigan, Colorado, I remember we went through probably, I want to say 4 different sets of packaging and just packaging and labeling within the first few years, which as we know, that can be extremely expensive because usually they're ordering their inventory labels in bulk and things like that. So nothing new in new markets. We just got to keep on rolling with the punches.